Deputy Nolan, I know you represent a constituency affected by this.
Yes, I'm representing the Laois Offaly constituency, and I'd like to thank you all for your very comprehensive presentations this morning, and indeed a lot of information there. I'd like to start by saying that the treatment of workers in our meat factories is totally unacceptable. In fact, it's a disgrace. But it's hardly surprising when we think of how our farmers have been treated for decades, absolute decades. I know that the meat price is still not what it should be. It should be at least €4.20 per kilo, and they're not getting the colour of that, although there's slight improvement when we compare to last year. But we also saw the chaos. This time last year, we saw farmers on their knees, suckler and beef farmers, on their knees, outside factory gates, pleading with factories to give them a fair price for their produce. Now we see the workers, and it's coming more to light. I mean, obviously it has been there for some time, and I'd go as far as saying the problem has been there for decades also, but it's been exposed now. And what we need to see happening is we need to see these meat factories reined in. And I'd be very strongly saying that. For some reason, a blind eye has been turned too long. In terms of our producers, in terms of the workers inside, we need an overhaul here, and we need it fast. And I'm calling on government here today, as a rural independent TD, I'm calling on them to take action once and for all, because this cannot continue. It's ruining livelihoods, it's ruining communities, it's ruining regions. I come from the Laois Offaly constituency. We've been unfairly punished because of the meat factories. We're seeing some businesses closing that cannot continue any longer because of the actions of meat factories. And it just has to stop. We're a region that's already on its knees with the Bord na Móna workers losing their jobs, and more workers to go before Christmas. So we cannot have this continue. And just in terms of specifically related to the workers, on the 20th of May, we had 828 cases of COVID-19 in meat factories. Now, nearly 3 months on, we're still no better. So I would just like to know what exactly is happening there. I know you've outlined some of the issues, but we were told about a national, I think they called it a national outbreak control team. We were told was going to deal with the factories and deal with this problem. But I'd like to know from yourselves, and I think I know the answer to it, it's a rhetorical question in a sense, but what evidence is there of any work being carried out by this national outbreak control team? Sounds great. Have they done anything? I'd just like to know also, in terms of the testing, and I know Greg Ennis outlined it there, that the turnaround is a serious issue, and I agree with you. I know government have said that they want weekly testing done for a duration of 4 weeks. Now, in my opinion, the duration of 4 weeks isn't long enough, because we've seen that we've had a serious problem in May, almost 3 months ago, and we're still experiencing a problem. But in your opinion, how long should that duration or time frame be for the testing? In my opinion, 4 weeks is not long enough. Also, in terms of the complaints received by I'm going to name SIPTU in particular, do we have any idea of the numbers of complaints that SIPTU have received from workers in terms of the conditions and in terms of what's happening inside in the meat factories? And particularly since May the 20th, when we had 828 cases, has there been more complaints received by the union? And I'd just like to know exactly there what the figures are, if you could give me some information. Good morning.
With regard to the testing, because I think this is a really, really important issue, we did welcome the government's announcement about the 4 weeks, but we welcomed it on the basis that, and the question you asked is how long for, it will have to stay there as long as it's needed. We could blanket test workers, and rightly so, right across the HSE, workers in the nursing home, workers in residential care. We've been saying about the perfect vectors that are in meat plants for the transmission of COVID for 5 months at this stage. So we need, Deputy, to answer your question straightly, we need not 4 weeks, we need it every week on a repeated basis until we get on top of this virus. That's what we need. But more importantly, we need the results the following day, like is happening in the UK at the moment. You can test 600 or 700 meat plant workers, and then even in the UK, get the result the following day. That's what we need. That is the only chance we have of A, keeping our workers safe, and the communities that you live in, Deputy, which is very, very important, and B, the continuity of meat production. With regard to complaints, I've dealt with many high-level disputes over the last 23 years as a union official. in different sectors and transport and so on. I don't think I've ever seen the volume of calls, complaints, call them what you will, that our officials on the ground have received, particularly since the end of April and early May. I won't say it's back to March, but since then, our members, because you see, it's their families. If a worker, you were on about 800 and I mentioned 1,115 by early July, and now it's 1,450 and heading north. When those workers have to isolate with suspected or confirmed case of COVID, their families may also have to isolate, and do have to isolate also because of close contact situations. And you can have two partners in that house, for example, who are both out of work, looking to get the illness benefit or the pandemic payment. This is a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe for the economy where you come from, and those three counties are paying a heavy price for us, I believe, taking our eye off the ball, because we need inspection, we need testing. But to answer your question, hundreds of complaints from workers about their concerns. And I'll finish on this, Deputy. I have never seen an industry, in my experience, and I've been across the public and private sector, where workers are so reluctant to come out front and talk to the media, for example, and sometimes to union officials about their concerns for fear of retribution. And that is a scandal in itself.
Thank you, Mr. Innes, and thank you very much.